Hi, friends. Welcome back to The Health Hunt, a human, humble, and humorous exploration that goes deep into the world of health and wellness. Today, we're back with part 2 of our conversation with Dr. Jerry Hu, a doctor of osteopathic medicine, former pharmacist, and a practitioner who focuses heavily on gut health, metabolic disease, and using nutrition as a primary tool for healing. In part 1, we talked about the big picture, how modern diets are contributing to chronic illness, why ultra-processed foods are such a problem, and how shifting back to real whole foods can dramatically improve your health. Now, in this episode, we get much more practical. Jerry breaks down what a simple, effective diet actually looks like, how to think about protein and body composition, and why resistance training is a critical piece of the puzzle. We also get into his perspective on medications, supplements, and gut health, challenging some of the most common assumptions people have about things like probiotics, acid reflux meds, and even diabetes treatments. If you're looking for a straightforward, no BS guidance on how to take control of your health, this one delivers. All right, quick disclaimer. The Health Hunt podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not medical professionals, and nothing shared should be considered medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your health. And Jerry also wants to remind us that everything he shares in this interview is his own opinion. Now, unlike Dan and I, he is a doctor, but he is not your doctor. Everyone needs their own primary care physician that they trust and that they can have a real conversation with. Everything Jerry shares here is purely for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Now let's jump in where we left off last time.
I like to approach food from the point of do your best and try to eat as real as possible and try to eat the food that is as close to as the source as possible.
You're setting up a great transition here, something that I'm super curious about, because you're the guest on our podcast today. And, Sandy, feel free to jump on in too here. I want to know, if you were to send someone home who had a very short attention span, what would be their diet going to the grocery store that you would give to them for gut health, weight loss? What would just be the list, the core list, maybe the amount of each of those foods, just things like in that nature?
I wouldn't even give them a list. I would just tell them, eat what your grandparents ate. What do you think your grandparents ate? And be as close to that as possible.
Interesting. And the premise of that is because they didn't have the type of processed food that we have now. I love the rule of thumb, like eat whole foods, right? The less stuff you eat from a package, the more stuff that you chop up and eat is a pretty good rule of thumb.
But that I agree. I agree with you. And I also get very scared every time I shop through Whole Foods and see some of the stuff that they have on the shelves. It just makes me go, oh my God, what is going on here? I also tell people real food it's not trying to trick you. Real food is not trying to tell you that it is real. And one of the frustrations that I hear from my patients, it really is this. I advise them, hey, listen, just eat the real food. And I will tell them flatly, especially if type 2 diabetes. And there are 3 different type 2 diabetes medications that are already maxed out on Ozempic or Wegovy, and they're still gaining weight. Yes, you can gain weight. You can push through that. You can gain weight while on max dose of weekly Wegovy. And, Mounjaro or Ozempic, because they treat type 2 diabetes. But it's really the food. It's really the food and the hormones, that's doing a number on their health.
I have a quick question on that, because you had mentioned that a significant amount of your patients are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. Is that because they're coming to you for something that is related to those type of symptoms, or just that many people fall into that category?
Just that many people fall into that category. No, they don't. The pre-diabetes, for the most part, has no symptoms. Right? So they have no symptoms. Even type 2 diabetes, for the most part, have no symptoms. That's what makes type 2 diabetes so insidious. It's literally a death by 1,000 cuts inside your body. It's literally a death by 1,000 cuts, right? I mean, we already know now that metabolic disease like type 2 diabetes is the number one cause of non-traumatic blindness in this country. The number one cause of end-stage renal disease on hemodialysis. And also the number one cause of liver failure. Yes, metabolic disease like type 2 diabetes has surpassed alcohol and hepatitis C for liver failure in this country. It's already surpassed it maybe 5 years ago. So yeah.
We do an episode on here, it's early on, I forgot what number it is, it talks about insulin sensitivity, glucose variability, all those things. From a layperson's perspective, I'm talking through it, not from a medical perspective, but we're very aware and mindful of just how bad this is, type 2 diabetes and, pre-diabetics.
Yeah, it is bad because I actually make it a point to tell my patients, especially of type 2 diabetes, like how bad it is. And I also talk to them about food. 10 times out of 10, the patients then tell me at the end of the visit is, Dr. Hu, nobody ever talked to me about this. I said, which part? He said, all of it. I'm like, nobody ever told you, like, you being on, type 2 diabetic medications for years, no one ever told you, like, the ramification of type 2 diabetes? I know. And nobody's ever asked you about food? No. I said, Dr. Hu, you're the first one. I'm like, okay, well, thank you. let's change the food. And let's continue the medications as they are. Change the food, please. I try to encourage them as much as I can. I say, I am not here. I beg them. I was doing the begging. I say, listen, I am not here to cure you of your type 2 diabetes. No drugs on this planet will cure you of your type 2 diabetes. The only cure is what's in front of you on the plate that you eat out of. That is the only cure. You ate your way into this, you can eat your way out of this. I say this every day, 5 days a week, every day, multiple times a day.
One thing we've talked about a couple of times, Jerry, and you haven't mentioned yet is protein, the grams of protein versus body weight. What do you tell that? What do you tell those same people?
Yeah, I also learned this from the three gentlemen that I read the books from. I tell them eat more protein, because clearly they're not eating enough. It's because majority of their calories taken up by carbs and ultra processed foods. And I say, listen, I would advise you, this is just based on my personal preference, also what I've read about meat protein versus plant proteins. I think for my patients and also for my clients, I just say, listen, eat more animal proteins. Grass-fed beef is number 1. Pasture-raised pork is number 2. Chicken is number 3. In terms of macronutrients, also in terms of micronutrients. Like grass-fed and grass-finished beef is really number 1. Chicken does not come close. But almost all of them still operate under the assumption that beef is bad for their health. Really? They still say that. I say, really? I thought red meat is bad for you. I say, who told you that? And they will always say, that's what they said. I say, who's they? Literally, I asked them a few times, who's this they? They can't tell. They just say, well, my cardiologist or the doctors before you or something. That said, that doesn't make sense. If that were the case, how am I here? Because my ancestors ate meat. I would tell them, if you want to lose weight, you should eat 1 gram of animal protein per pound of the body weight that you want to reach. That's only half of the picture. The other half is, while you're doing this, you need to go to the gym and do some resistance training, or stay at home and do some weight-based, like body weight-based resistance training of some kind. Because otherwise, the protein that you're eating, a lot of it will turn into glucose and be absorbed, be metabolized as fat again. So really do some resistance training because you need to maintain and build the muscle. And muscle is the garbage dump for blood sugar. Muscle sucks up blood sugar like it's nothing.
And as far as just, Sandy's a vegetarian. What would protein look like in that regard?
You just have to eat more. Well, again, sorry, let me rephrase. That was too soon of advice. It really depends on Sandy's goal or goals. Right? At the end of the day, what we eat and how we eat should be based on goals.
It's always been a struggle to maintain enough protein. So my main sources are eggs and things like tofu, temp, things like that. And I'll eat a whole can of like chickpeas, but I also know that's also high in carbs. So then it spikes this was something that I noticed with the glucose monitors. It was spiking my carbs. And so that concerned me a little bit. So, there has been, I try and add like sometimes a pea protein or something like that in drinks, but I find that it's gross. So I was trying to put it in my matcha in the morning, but it's just gross. So I'm not doing a lot of that, but I'll try in the evening sometimes to have a drink where it's mixed in or things like that. But I can tell you it's definitely a struggle as a vegetarian to get what would be an adequate amount of protein even for health and muscle.
You do need to eat, if you want to achieve the 1 pound of, you probably need to eat 1.3 or 1.5 grams of plant protein per pound to get up there because we just, our human gut is just not evolved to absorb plant protein as well as animal protein. And not to mention when we break down the proteins in our gut, we also exert energy to do that as well. So, yeah, the vegetarians and also the vegans, you just have to eat more. But, and again, I'm not here to try to convert any vegans or vegetarians back to the meat, the omnivore side. But there's also more things in a grass-fed beef, just more than just proteins. You also have other micronutrients in there as well. It's almost like a nature's multivitamin when you eat grass-fed beef. So that's why I became a fan. This is after reading and learning from Dave Asprey's books. So
Jerry, you've mentioned medications people take. They're taking, not even knowing what they're taking. Maybe a doctor just gave them to them and it's a Band-Aid. And you've mentioned kind of testing and biomarkers. Can you outline to us what medications people are taking that are Band-Aids and really just not helpful? And then what biomarkers people should be going to the labs and getting to understand their bodies better?
I am of the belief, and I may be on sort of the end of the spectrum here. I am of the belief that all drugs for chronic medical conditions are Band-Aids. All of them. Because all drugs, I used to be a pharmacist, and I'm still a firm believer that all drugs are poisons. The reason they work and work well, it depends on the 5 W's, who, what, where, when, why. And that is the reason. And no one should be, and I will make this very clear, I tell all my patients this, no one should be on drugs, any kind of prescription drugs forever. I encourage all my patients to work with me to have an expiration date on every single one of the drugs that they are on, because they're all poisons at the end of the day.
So as it relates to gut health,
even the likes of GLP-1 drugs, the glucagon-like peptide drugs, because your body just don't produce hundreds and thousands of times of the normal levels, like the GLP-1 drugs. And I encourage all my patients, when you eat dietary fiber, you trigger your own GLP-1 release. Most of them don't know that. And I try to tell them that. You make your own GLP-1. You can make more of it if you eat dietary fiber. So either primarily from green vegetables, and secondarily, you can add some prebiotic supplements if you like. So, yeah.
What about specifically regarding like things like PPIs, famotidine, Gaviscon, these types of things? People take these recreationally over the counter all the time. And what is it really doing to your gut?
Can't speak to the simethicones, but the PPI for sure doesn't really help because it actually disrupts the environment, because our gut bacteria comes from, well, actually the gut bacteria, the microbiome really begins in our mouth. A lot of the oral bacteria go into our gut and eventually travel down to the gut and settle down there. So when you alter the acidity of your stomach, you are not creating an optimal environment for them to go through. So, yeah. And chronic alteration, I don't have the data on this, but I know that they've done studies on this. Chronic alteration of your stomach's pH can also potentially, I think there's also links with osteoporosis as well, especially using PPIs. The proton pump inhibitors, the likes of omeprazole and pantoprazole and esomeprazole, which is why I do my best to ask all my patients, hey, listen, are you still taking this every day? If not, you don't need to take this every day, You can maybe stop for a week and see how you feel. And at the same time, change the food that you eat, because listen, when you switch over to a whole foods approach, whole foods, like plant-based, just eating real food, your gut microbiome changes, and usually that will make a change to your like acid reflux as well for the better. So it's not just stopping the meds, right? It's not just stopping the medications and not make a change about the food. You do have to change what you eat simultaneously, right? And so anyway, go ahead.
Are there any tests for your gut that you ask your patients to take that you've taken that are like just not typical Quest Labs or LabCorp that are just really important telling tests?
I had tried, this is years ago. This is, again, I had tried, this is in its early days, a company called Viome, Viome. I tried it. This is in the 2010s when I was just experimenting with, some supplements and biohacking stuff. I did try it once, but here's the thing. Do we need to, if you want to test your microbiome, test your stool and see what lives in it? Well, sure. Go ahead and test it. But it's a static, or the information you get is very static. It just tells you on this day, at this time, when your stool was donated to the company, this is what's in it, right? This is the species at the time. The moment you change your food, for example, you went from ultra processed, diet, cut that all out and eat more dietary fiber from whole foods and eat meat. Within hours, your gut microbiome will start changing, because that's just the bacteria doubling time, usually every 4 hours. So I don't know how much benefit you can really get from this kind of testings, because again, it's a very static, it's just a one-time, at that time, a one-time thing, right? You can also track it, but if you want to say, oh, I want to track my stool every 2-3 months, if you want to spend the money and do that, that's a worthy experiment if you want to do yourself. But do you really need to do it? I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, when you eat real food and whole foods, you will feel better and your gut microbiome will change for the better. Because that's what our ancestors ate.
So are you saying that people don't need to take probiotics or other things that, obviously if they didn't test, they wouldn't know if they needed it, but I've taken a probiotic forever and I'm scared to not take it. So.
Well, the question you have to ask, this is the thing I encourage all my patients to do. Before you take any drugs, before you take any supplements, just find out why you want to take it. Just for yourself, ask the why. Why do you want to take it? And if, for example, in terms of probiotics, if you want to take it, what species are in the single capsule? And are these species what we call keystone species? There are certain species that's been identified as what they call keystone, meaning these, for example, certain lactobacillus species have been identified as keystone, meaning they actually contribute to overall metabolic health, including obesity, including improvements in insulin resistance. So that's right. Asking why you want to take it, and are these keystone species? And 3, do they survive your stomach acid? I think the answer is most of them don't. And the ones that do survive, and they get through your gut, I mean, they survive the acid in the they survive the acid in the stomach, and then they still have to go through some acidic places in the duodenum, the first section of the small intestine. By the time they get to your large intestine, how much of that do they really make a difference by the time I get there? Like, I honestly don't know. I'm not so sure they will make a difference. That's why I always advise all my patients, focus on the dietary fiber, meaning the prebiotics, as we call it, because that's the food that your gut bacteria love to eat. And when they eat them, they release these short-chain fatty acids, or SCF8, and those short-chain fatty acids send good signals to your gut, telling me, say, hey, gut, we got food, we're happy, let's make our host happy by, making serotonin, by making dopamine, by making this and that, by improving our immune system, your immune response. So I think the prebiotics is more important than probiotics.
I really like your simplified approach. I think that that's very effective, and to the extent that that's, the way to go. I like it.
I just don't think eating is really that complicated or that difficult. I really believe that the first thing people have to get out of it, as I call it, the red pill moment, using Matrix as a metaphor, is really question what you have learned. Question what people tell you first. Right? Red meat is bad for you. Well, this is something I learned from Dr. Jason Fong. He said, always ask the 3 whys. Red meat is bad for you. Oh, why is it bad for you? Red meat is bad for you because it increases your cholesterol, or something like that. Why does increasing cholesterol bad? It's bad because of blah, 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 right? You just have to really force yourself to ask the 3 whys, and really find out, oh, is this really bad? Or is it just something I hear from people say all the time, right? Another thing, eat more fruits and vegetables. Oh, okay. Why do we need to eat more fruits and vegetables? Because they're good for you. Again, they're good for you. That's like the ultimate answer for everything. Why are they good for me? In what way? Because fruits have a lot of fructose. Vegetables have no fructose. Why am I eating something with a lot of fructose, which is a type of sugar, versus something that doesn't really carry a lot of fructose? What do they have in common? Like, really, at the end of the day, what do the fruits and vegetables have in common that we just love telling everybody to eat more fruits and vegetables? The short answer is, I don't know. I really don't know. What does a banana and cauliflower have in common? Dan, do you know? Sandy, please.
They're both white. If you peel the banana, I guess they're white. Maybe they have a common color,
sure.
But nutritionally, they don't have. There's no commonality.
They don't have anything in common. So why do we keep telling each other that? Eat more fruits. And why do people in my line of work keep telling people that? Stop telling people that. They have nothing in common. It's like me telling you to eat more duck and go ride motorcycle because it's good for you. You hear that statement from me, you're like, Jerry, what the hell are you talking about? What does duck and motorcycle have in common? I say nothing. I just think they're good for you because I'm a doctor. No, please, just really question the dogma, so to speak, or question the reality. Is this true? Is this real? Right? Because we bought into these lies. Oh yeah, another thing doctors love to say, and I used to say that too. Just eat less and exercise more. Does that work? It doesn't. We've had multiple population-based studies on the topic. it does not work for the long run. Because calories in does not equate calories out. The laws of thermodynamics do not apply to the human body. It just doesn't apply. We are an open system. Thermodynamics operate very well in a closed vacuum system. So it just doesn't apply. And this is where Jason Fung's, I really admire Jason Fung's work and the books that he's written. It's about the hormones. It's about food is not just energy. It's also information. It's data. It's the information that triggers your hormone to do certain things. Our ancestors did not eat because of calories. They didn't care about calories. And they ate pretty decently when they were around. And we conquered this planet as a result of what they were eating.
Well, I'll tell you this. Our ancestors didn't get the Monopoly game at McDonald's, so they missed out
Right, there
there.
you go. Right. And our ancestors did not eat ultra-processed foods. And that's why we have the body that have given, they have passed down to us. But we are destroying ourselves with these ultra-processed food. I mean, for the love of God, like I go through the grocery stores and supermarkets all the time. I look at the shelves and it's like, what is this? What are they selling here? And what are we doing to ourselves?
So true.
Painful.
Jerry, this has been really informative. We have to do the rapid fire. I have to humanize you because I've peppered you with so many medical questions. You've given us so much good information, but we need to know who Jerry is. So Jerry, I have quick questions and you have to answer them very quickly. If you don't know, just think of something off the top of your head. So what's your favorite food?
A grass-fed steak.
There we go. What's a television show or a movie everyone should watch?
I'm actually a fan. I really like historical movies. I really enjoy watching documentaries. What is a good documentary that I recommend people watch? Recently it's on Netflix. It's called Dynasty. It's about the Murdoch family, or I don't know if they still own Fox, but the Fox News and Fox Network. My wife and I, we watched the HBO show Succession first, and I knew it sort of kind of portrays the Murdoch family. So I started watching recently the documentary called Dynasty based on the Murdoch family. It's just eye-opening.
What music boosts your mood when you're working out or just in the car or wherever? I
like to listen to the top hits, like the top 40. Well, anything that the nurses and the medical system play at work, I listen to. Oh, it's kind of that's kind of, I like the tune. I don't know the title of the song. I just use my iPhone and say, hey, Siri, what's the name of the song? And I just listen and it tells me, oh, great, add this to my thing. So I just listen to the top hits for the most part.
Jerry rolls the window down, has a little Taylor Swift on. I love it.
I do. I do have some Taylor Swift. So I just, it sounds pretty cool. Just listen to it.
So Jerry, what's a wellness habit that you genuinely love?
Not eating ultra processed foods as much as possible. And it's okay to not eat. Especially in the Western society. It's okay to not eat. You will be fine. I promise.
So since we talked so much about diet, this is the last. I have to ask this. What is the guilty pleasure? If it's Sunday, is it the big pizza? What's the guilty pleasure you'll have?
My wife and I do eat one carb meal a week. So my wife will alternate rice and pasta. So that's the one meal that I eat a week. That has shit on carbs. So.
All right. You survived rapid fire. You survived rapid fire. You came out on the other side. Jerry, this has been a pleasure. I thank you so much for giving us the audience, our 10 listeners now. I think we had 3 a couple months ago. Now we have 10 listeners. All of the amazing information. I've learned a lot and, would love to have you on again and we could talk about more specific things, but this has just been a treat.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Fascinating conversation.
I just want to leave, if just one message I want to leave your listeners. I just want to say this. We are all Homo sapiens. We may have different ethnicities, but we're all part of the species, which is Homo sapiens. We are the most powerful mammalian species on this planet for a reason. We have conquered this planet for a reason. We have mastered the power of electrons for a reason. And we have gone to space, go underseas and gone to the moon and all that stuff for a reason. And that reason is we can create our own reality. We can tell a story and make it come true. So, nobody is helpless. Never think that you're helpless. You can create a new reality based on the story that you want to tell yourself. And that is a superpower. No other mammals can do that. If they could, they would have created civilizations like we have. So you want to see a future you that is vibrant, that is fit, or that is, that has good libido, whatever that may be, you can make it come true. You have to work at it. And there are no shortcuts when it comes to medicine, things that I do, there are no shortcuts. The shortcuts is right there on the plate that you eat out of. That is the only and the ultimate shortcut. So never sell yourself short.
Thank you so much. It's great advice.
I know. I feel, I just want people to feel like we are all together on this, right? And you don't have to do this alone. There's always a community out there. Join the community and you can change your reality.
That's what we're trying to create here. We actually always say that. We want people to feel like they're less alone. So that's a very important takeaway.
Right. Yeah. But the reality changing, that's the power that we have. No other animals can do that. They have to obey the environments. They have to obey the genetic codes. If you ever seen the last thing I'm going to say, if you ever seen the documentary that came out in the 2000s, March of the Penguins, right? You ever seen that? It's an excellent documentary. And I'm very happy that I am not a penguin, no matter how cute they are. They only do what they do. They have no other choice. But we as humans, we can choose. We can be the best version of ourselves, or we can choose to be self-destructive. It's not that hard. Being healthy, living vibrantly is not difficult. It takes work, but it is not difficult.
Jerry, we're going to include ways for people to find you in our show notes. And if you want to interject any of those right now, please do so before we wrap up.
The only social media platform that I'm on is LinkedIn. So just find it. I think just Jerry Hu, DO. I should be the only Jerry Hu there. So
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy, for your time.
This was a really powerful conversation. From rethinking what real food actually means to understanding how protein, resistance training, and simple daily habits can directly impact your metabolism and long-term health. Jerry also challenged a lot of conventional thinking, whether it's relying too heavily on medications, overcomplicating gut health with supplements, or overlooking how much control we actually have through the food we eat every day. At the core of it, this episode is a reminder that improving your health doesn't have to be complicated, but it does require intention. If this episode gave you a new perspective or something practical to try, send it to a friend or family member who's on their own health journey. And if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, which is episode 25 with Jerry Hu, go back and check it out. It sets the foundation for everything we talked about today. Make sure to follow the show, subscribe, and leave us a review. It helps more people find these conversations and be part of a community that's figuring this out together. You can also find Jerry on LinkedIn, and we'll link that in the show notes. Thanks for being part of the Health Hunt. We'll see you next time.